So I'm going to be talking about both the article I read and the video I watched. The article is titled A Tale of Two Schools, and the video performance is called Notes from the Field. So the article basically started off with an introduction about how there's two different schools from two different districts. One is one of the poorest in New York, and then there's one that's only 6 miles away that's, costs about $43,000 a year for each student. And the students, they talked to each other, they sent letters, and then, it progressed into them having conversations, and then they performed everyday life performances about each other. And for the video titled Notes from the Field, it was a one-woman show where her name is Anna, don't want to mess up the middle name, Smith, Anna Smith. She performed many interviews, she recorded many interviews, and she regurgitated them in as that person, verbatim, as what they said, how they said it, over a variety of topics, but mainly focusing around prison system and the school system. So with the, sorry, let me pull my notes. With the video, it really impacted me because it started off talking about the death of Freddie Gray, and I've never heard that story. So hearing it from her playing another person, and essentially to me it felt like she was that other person. She had costume changes, she had set changes, she had props, she had all this to create an illusion that she is another character as that person that she's performing as. And it really hit, deep down, because I personally haven't had many family members that have been to jail. I haven't had many family members who dropped out of high school or middle school or anything like that. So being able to see how it has affected people, and other videos that have been shown, that have been leaked about police brutality, and people that are in prison, who have been in prison for something they did or did not do, different things of like how much money is going towards the prison system rather than the school system. Because I was one of the first few interviews that one of the first few scenes that Miss Smith was performing. She was talking about how it's an investment, how everything the government puts their money towards is an investment, whether that's school or the prison system. And she was talking about how they've chosen to take money away from the school system and put it towards the prison system to incarcerate more people, to put more people into the system of policemen, of armor for the policemen, tasers, guns, handcuffs, shackles. She was talking about how I think it was with Freddie Gray, how he was put in handcuffs, he was put in shackles, couldn't even walk, tased, thrown in the back of a van while they're driving, bumping around in the back of the van, not taken care of as a human. He was treated like an animal. She referred to it as taking an animal to the vet or to, the cemetery because it's already dead. The way that the police were treating those people were not like they were treating them as people. They were treating them as animals, as less than humans, as not as equal as others. And like in another scene, or another interview that she was performing, she talked about how how do I say it? How it's not only white on black. It's not only black on white. It's not, there's this person that's like, it's not that. Because it's not. There's Hispanics, there's Indians, there's Asians, there's different races, there's different ethnicities. It's not just black and white. But that's what the media portrays, and that's what the media shows, because that's what gets the most attention. That's what gets us, oh, white people, white policemen are beating up black people. Oh, these Black Lives Matter protesters, the black people are attacking the white people. They always say it's black on white on black, all this stuff. But there's so much black on black, white on white, Asian on Mexican. There's so many different types of stuff that the media doesn't portray, because that's not what gets them views. That's not what gets them the money. That's not what gets them the publicity. That's not what gets their name out there. So whenever something that's good that happens with police or with of anyone else, just random citizens, they don't show that because that's not what's going to get them views. What does get them is all the hate, all the negativity, all the racism, all the bigotry, all of that. That's what gets them their views. So that's what they're going to put out into the media, into the system, to just create more of that. And of course, the more money they get, the more money the government gets, the more money they're able to put into prisons, put into isolation tanks for prisoners. There's one person that was talking about like how being in prison is the same as being in real life, but in prison you're just in a cage, and that's all it is. And like that's the difference. Just there's the same food chain, but different, because one, you're gonna get stabbed and you stab other people. You care less. That's what they're talking about, how you're in that prison system for so long that you care less and less and less about other people. Being in the prison system is not gonna fix you. It doesn't do anything. Sure, there might be a few percent that might better themselves. They're like, oh, I did something wrong, I'm going to better myself. They get out, they try to be better, but they can't, because a lot of times people don't even hire people that have been in prison, because like, oh, fugitive, oh, you armed robbery, oh, this and that. And so they don't even get hired, so they don't even have a chance to better themselves. So then they get back into that system of dealing drugs, killing, all this stuff, whatever it is that got them there in the first place. They do that again because that's all they know, and that's all they have lived with, and that's all the way that they're able to survive. Or they can just be homeless and beg because they can't get jobs. Rant about that over. As far as the school system, in the article, that one I also do feel I'm able to relate to both, sort of, because I was raised by my mom, single mother. She was caring for me and my brother, working 3 jobs, that whole story. And she met this guy, was my stepdad. He was working a great job, making enough money to support her, me, and my brother. And he got a promotion at his job. We moved to North Carolina. We lived there. We were able to buy a house. It was the first house that I never even thought buying a house was like a real thing. Like, I was like, oh, it's for those rich CEO billionaires that were able to buy a house. But it was our house. Like, I had my own room. I was able to paint it. I was able to do whatever I wanted because we weren't renting. Like, we had a house. It was like, it was my room. And then because we had enough money, we were able to go to one of the nicer public schools. It's still a public school. It wasn't private. Still a public school. But, like, it was still nice. Like, there's, like, decent lunches. There's all this, like, I was living well. Like, high education. Like, there was competition between people. Like, the people were trying to better their education within the system that they already had. And then, long story short, my mom, brother, and I moved back to Texas, and we went back to, I was in a small, like, where we lived is in a smaller rural area that didn't have much of competition. There weren't many people, so there weren't many, like, like top 50% was pretty easy to get. And so there wasn't much competition. The education, since we were living a little bit poorer than we were back in North Carolina, so I didn't get the same education that I did when I was in North Carolina. I know that I started caring less because I was surrounded in an environment that cared less. I wasn't treated any different going from the poor school to the richer school, but I definitely felt an internal change because I was like, I'm used to, free lunches because, like, a lot of people couldn't afford it. So, like, had free lunches, but, like, there were the cheap lunches, all that stuff, to going to the nicer school in North Carolina and, like, it being shown, like, there was, like, actual food. There was, like, it wasn't just thrown together on a tray, slapped together, here you go. Like, it was, it was nicer, and I was able to see, like, the nicer textbooks, the nicer hallways, the nicer bathrooms, things that actually worked, things that, lockers, just like little things like that I didn't realize other people had on a daily basis. And I can't say that I've ever been poor. I've always had a roof over my head. I've always had food on the table. I've been blessed. I've been grateful. But it makes me realize what other people have lived and have grown up with, and then sometimes that gets taken away from them. And so they don't know how to react to that because the school system is so flawed that you could move, in this article, 6 miles and be from one of the poorest high schools to $43,000 a year. Even here at UNT, it doesn't cost $43,000 a year. It costs $43,000 for like 2 years for college education. And so to me, that just baffles my mind that that is even within walking distance. I could walk 6 miles and be in that nice school system, that nice education that will be able to put me a leg up higher than what other people have because they're not as blessed or as gifted or whatever it is to be able to have that option to be educated well, to have that option to live life as everyone else should, because the government puts so much money into the prison system and they care more about, oh, you do something bad, we're going to put you in jail, rather than, oh, you did something bad, this was your first offense, let's see a way that we can work together so you don't do anything wrong again. And, rehab, whatever it is to help them, rather than, you jaywalked, we're gonna put you on probation for 2 years. Like little things like that just gets them more money, or tickets, anything like that. Just the police officers are just out there looking for trouble rather than them just, being there to help each other. When I see police officers, I don't see them as a support system that I could go up to, ask them questions. I feel intimidated. And I'm half white, half Hispanic. I'm not even, like a full person of color. So I don't even feel, I can't be able to think what other people feel, that, knowing that there have been police officers that have not only attacked, beaten, but killed their own race, their own family, their own blood, their own friends, whatever it is, knowing that happened. So it's a very screwed up system, both the police system and the school system. But a lot of people feel like since we've gone so far along having this type of system, and they saying that it's working and that's fine, they're not going to make significant changes in a short period of time that will make greater change, that will take money away from the military, from the police, and give it to the people in America that don't have that aren't able to supply for their own food. Because a lot of higher up education government people are like, oh, America's the best, we're great, number one, go America. But there's so many people living under the poverty line just because of where they live. And they're not able to move up because they have to work 4 or 5 minimum wage paying jobs to be able to save enough to be able to move up somewhere in the world just for them to get old and die, but then have that little bit of extra money to their kids, for their kids to live a little better life than what they went through. Because I don't want my kids to go through the same suffering that I did. I want to be able to supply for them, be able to do all this stuff. And I know everyone suffers. Everyone has had trauma. Everyone has had their issues. But if I know that there's one thing that I can do to help my children have a better education from the start, with preschool, kindergarten, elementary school, middle school, high school, and then if they want to, college, or whatever they want to do, I want them to know that there is a system that is there to help them, whether that's the police system, the school system, or me as the system. I don't know what needs to be done, but I do know that there does need to be change, because there are people dying. There are people starving. There are people not educated because they don't have the money to be able to educate themselves or the materials to educate themselves. And a lot of times what I figured out is that the prisons have a lot more books and textbooks to educate yourself than some of the high schools and some of the middle schools. So a lot of people purposely go to jail just so they can read and they can educate themselves. So whenever they get out, they have more information about the system, about the world, about whatever it is. And it's just mind-boggling to think that it's been however many decades, centuries since the school started, then police system started, and it feels like it's the same system. There have been pictures from schools from 100 years ago to now. The same setup, the same desk, the same whiteboard, the same teacher, the same podium, the same apple on the desk, everyone raising their hands, being quiet, raising their hands, same standardized tests. There's not really a change. And you think by how long we've evolved as humans. I'm recording this on an iPhone 12 Pro. I have a TV. I have a lamp. I have a candle warmer. I have different things that have evolved or even been invented, and the school system's still the same. Still the same textbooks, still the same tests, teachers, all that still the same, but there's no significant growth from where we have technology or as a human race to where the school system and prison system has been increased. It seems like it's either staying the same or going lower. It feels like there's no improvement. Again, I'm 19, I don't know that much, but what I do know is that there does need to be change, and I do hope that there is change soon. To recap, love the video, love the article, both great. Really did teach me a lot, since I know I'm not very well educated on police brutality or school systems or prison systems, but with the information I do have, I do want to expand on that. I do want to grow from that, and make it better with the information I have or the information I can gain from people, because I love learning about real world stuff like this. This was a great assignment. I loved it. But overall, it's a great article, great video, loved it, but there does need to be some change soon. And I'm really hoping with this generation, with the voice that we have, that we're able to make a change, or at least the start of a change, because obviously we can't change the entire prison system or the entire school system in the span of one lifetime. It's going to take decades. It's going to take maybe centuries. But knowing that we can get that ball rolling down that hill and get that momentum going, knowing that either I or people who are going out there, who are making their voice heard, making petitions, making all this, advocating for what they believe in, I want there to be something to happen to make it a start. And I think with the death of George Floyd, I think that was a great start. In a horrible situation, but I think that it needs to happen to get our voices out there, to realize that it's still a screwed up system. It's not getting any better whatsoever. But c'est la vie, or however the French say it. Again, love these articles. Definitely will watch the video again, show my friends, family, all that, get that word out there. Yep, I guess that's it.